is your Kubota L 3710 leaking hydraulic fluid from somewhere between the floorboard and the steering wheel, well, you're in the right place. There's that. Basically, this is what takes the input from your steering wheel shaft and then through some kind of witchcraft turns that into 4 hoses going out that ultimately control what direction your front wheels are facing. Problem is that bushing. Over time, rain and crap gets down that shaft. Eventually gets past this seal and then past more seals until you get to the point to where you got a drippy steering column. You might be lucky and just have a loose hose on the bottom side, but more than likely that's not the case. These are not cheap. Now here's the fun little bit of mystery. I don't know if you have to clock this thing when you install it, so might get it put in there and you turn left and the wheels go right. Surely it's a little more idiot proof than that, but back from its date with the pressure washer. You're gonna want to take this cover off and this bottom cover off to start with. If you own a tractor similar to this and it's not leaking yet, do yourself a favor. Take a pick in that hole right there. Just clean the dirt and shit out of it. That's the drain, which all the rain and shit that gets past this bushing, it gets down in there. In theory, that shouldn't be clogged, and let that stuff drain out in order to save the box. But those 2 plastics are off, 10mm, 13mm. This guy's got to come out. I had pulled the steering wheel last time, but I'm going to try to leave it on this time because it's not a good time. Get these 2 out so that this gear selector will pop out of the way. And I'm pretty sure then it's just lean it out and take the hoses off. Alrighty, that's out. I can just kind of sit there. There is that. Okay. Quick, simple job. Alright, so all that holds are that little guy. Goes in that slot, and then your adjuster that goes there. And once you got that unhooked, it's pretty well free swinging. And the last one is a drain back, so just 7/8 for the big one and 3/4 for the smaller ones, or their metric equivalent. There it is. There is the witchcraft box. Like I said earlier, there's that hole. Keep that cleaned out, because once it plugs, it's just a downhill slide. I've had this out a year and a half ago, and then I just replaced that, and I think the little sector stub shaft piece on the inside, in hopes that that would fix the leak. And it got us to where we limped out another year and a half with it leaking. And then take these 4 out, 12 millimeter, and slide it out of there. Yeah, you could see it blew that first seal out, because the leak that this has is further down into that madness that's inside the box. But yeah, and then and there's just a bearing, which is new on this. So hopefully set that aside. And then this guy is what goes down in there. So yeah, see, this tractor doesn't even sit outside that much, and there's already dirt and shit down in there. Awesome. Gonna have to take those out, switch them over to that carefully, so that hopefully get them in the right spot the first time. This, like I said, it just got replaced because the old one was so rusted and pitted that it was never going to seal. And that's basically your line of defense to keep dirt and other bits of nature out, because you can see the end result here of what happens when it doesn't. It gets further down in and you're screwed. There's a show you just how much shit gets down in there. Here's that bearing that sits down in the bottom. I went ahead and took the seal off of it, cleaned the shit out of it. It's still in good shape, so fill it back up with some all-weather grease and put the cap back on and slap it together. I think for this tube, to keep it from just rusting all to hell, once this is together, I'll just fill it full of fluid film. Took all my fittings, got them switched. They had a little bit of Teflon tape on them already, so I kept up with the tradition. There's the bushing for the top of the steering shaft. I got away without having to take the steering wheel off. I'd say put a little lubricant on it. Bearings back in, slide that shaft down. There you go. And that end will sit down in that bearing. Probably have to condense it just a little bit. There it is. Let's just make sure that little notch goes in that little notch. Went in pretty easy. Didn't have to force it. So as far as clocking it or anything like that, I just tried my best to put it in and not turn it at all. So I don't know what the hell's gonna happen when we start it. If you turn left to go right, or turn left and the bucket goes down. We'll see what happens. Or if it leaks.